Hey guys, so what we're going to do right now is kind of do a little breakdown, as I promised, of Sonnet number 18 by William Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So what we're going to start with is just this idea of what comes to mind when you hear a summer's day. So obviously William Shakespeare presents us with this idea, this image of a summer's day for a reason. So what I did here was I posted the first few pictures that I saw when I searched summer's day. So obviously, if we were to talk about the mood we get when we look at these, I feel very calm, I feel relaxed, it's peaceful. I mean, it's pretty beautiful, it's colorful. Whereas if contrary to this, we were to look at images of winter, we might see maybe like some peace and serenity because when the snow falls, it looks very calm. However, when we think about the winter, we think of very negative things because the winter's cold. It gets dark early at night, whereas the summer, we have this beautiful light. I'm definitely looking forward to summer at this point. I'm sure you guys all are also. So when we think about this idea of a summer's day, we think of all these beautiful things. But one thing we don't think about summer is it's going to come to an end. And we're going to get to this idea, but I want you to keep that in the back of your mind while we're going through this. So, you guys yesterday on your assignment were asked to identify some words to review or words that were unfamiliar to you. So someone had recognized the word temperate, which means mild temperature or very agreeable. Owest, meaning you have. Shall, should. Growest, you grow. Thou means you. Thy is your. Eternal, meaning forever, and lease is to have something for a short while. So some of these words, these are great words that you guys identified as unfamiliar, and you did a great job defining some of them, and I filled in the rest. So great identification, and hopefully this is going to help us as we read the poem one more time. So here we go. So let's look at this poem. Sonnet 18, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day by William Shakespeare. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot in the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So what on earth does that even mean? So some of you guys pointed out that maybe one of the big ideas here is love. Maybe they're talking about someone. Maybe they're talking about this idea of a summer day, which all of those are really great starting guesses. Okay, really great starting guesses. And we're going to break it down a little bit. So our poem starts out with this idea, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? So, in other words, should I compare you to a summer's day? You are more lovely and more temperate or agreeable. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May. So if we think about May leading into summer, thinking about the weather, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. What does that mean? Summer's lease. It's that idea that I just mentioned a little bit earlier, is summer only lasts for a certain amount of time. And sometime too hot in the eye of heaven shines, and often his gold complexion dimmed. So talking about that idea of the sun, we think about that brightness when we talk about the summer, but it doesn't last forever. It does have a tendency to dim, get darker. Sometimes it's too hot. And every fair from fair sometime declines. So it's that idea of declining, darkening, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. We look at the seasons, they change, guys, every single time. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. So what does that mean? But thy eternal summer shall not fade. We're talking to the person, that person we're trying to compare to a summer's day. And Shakespeare's saying, well, your eternal summer will not fade. In other words, your beauty and who you are isn't going to fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. So the things you have, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade. When in eternal lines to time thou growest, so eternal living forever, these ideas, you're living in the lines of forever in time, and you're going to keep growing. But how do you keep growing, and how does your beauty stay? William Shakespeare gives us this line: so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. So this that he's referring to is this poem. This whole poem, he's saying, is what's going to give life to you. It's what's going to give life to this person that he's speaking of. Whether it's a girl, it's a boy, it's someone close to him, this poem is going to allow them to live on forever as long as humans are able to see, in this case, men, according to William Shakespeare. Okay, so it's this big idea that he is trying to compare this person to a summer's day, but the beauty of this person is never going to fade. This beauty of the person's never going to disappear, unlike a summer's day. Then they take it a step further. Sometimes people analyze this poem in a different way, talking about the idea of love and using this as a metaphor, this summer's day, that love isn't going to last forever. So it depends on how you read into this poem. So if we were to talk about the rhyme scheme here, I just want to quickly highlight some of these words and how they rhyme. So what I'm going to do is, and like I said, we speak and pronounce things a little differently than they used to back then. So it might sound a little funny when I say certain words, and or it might be difficult for us to understand the rhyme, but it's there, or at least when they used to recite the poem. So when we looked at day, we're going to put the letter A, because when we start our rhyme scheme, we always start with the first letter of the alphabet. So day is A. Then we have temperate, or temperate, and that doesn't rhyme with day. So we go to the next letter. So we go to a B. Then we have May. Sorry, guys, I forgot to underline that. Then we have May. Okay, so May, I look back, temperate, those don't rhyme, but it does rhyme with day. So May and day, and we get a letter A again. Then we have date, temperate, temperate, temperate. Okay, so that one's going to be a B. Now we go to shines. Do shines rhyme with either date or May? It doesn't. So we're going to have to give it the next letter, which is going to be a C, because it doesn't rhyme with A and it doesn't rhyme with B. Then we go to dimmed, and dimmed, unfortunately, doesn't rhyme with anything either. So I'm hoping you guys are all sitting there screaming, then give it the letter D on the rhyme scheme, right? So the letter D is going to go here. Shines, declines. I know at this point you guys are probably like, it's a C. So we put the C. Then we have untrimmed. Trimmed matches with dimmed, and we get the letter D. Then we have fade. Fade doesn't match A, doesn't match B, doesn't match C, doesn't match the sounds of D. So we go to the next letter, E, and we have oest. E, that doesn't rhyme with anything, so we put the letter F. Shade, fade, we go to E again. And I think you guys get the point at this moment, hopefully. If not, we can always review. You guys let me know. And we end with C and B, giving us, it's a G, guys, sorry, G and G. And so now we have a rhyme scheme pattern, and our rhyme scheme pattern is A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, G, making it a Shakespearean sonnet. I mean, obviously you guys knew that, especially considering our poet is Shakespeare. So that makes sense. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense for you guys with rhyme scheme and figuring it out. We want to highlight that last letter. If you guys recall, the last letter of, not the last letter, the last word of each line, and we find out what words it rhymes with. And we go down the alphabet, and we can definitely do more examples of these if you guys want. But we got to go back into our, elementary school roots and think about all those words that rhyme. So hopefully you guys feel a little more comfortable understanding the poem, understanding the rhyme scheme. We're thinking about this idea of a summer's day, what kind of metaphor or comparisons are being made here. And we'll go to our next slide to kind of highlight some of these images. So some of these images that pop out is this idea of a summer's day. I get a visualization of being lovely, this idea of temperate, darling buds, too hot, right? That feeling of heat, changing course or changing directions, right? Maybe uncertainty, or people don't always associate this idea of change with good things, okay? And then we start talking about death and shade and darkness. And then we talk and we wrap it all up with this idea of giving life. Okay, this idea of giving life at the end and keeping something alive, keeping this beauty or keeping this love and passion alive. It depends, but I think you guys kind of get the point. So these images really create a picture for us. Pretty positive image. And we use the imagery oftentimes to identify our tone or the tone of a piece. And so in this case, the tone is typically the author's view or feelings towards a specific subject. And so in this case, based on the selected images from the slide before, what might be the tone of the poem and how does the poet feel towards the subject? So when we think about it, this idea of a summer's day, something being beautiful, it's very heartfelt. There's a very affectionate tone. They're enamored, like full of love and care. And that's what we are presented with. And so that brings us to our last slide. And our last slide is this idea of a volta. And so what is the volta? The volta is a shift in our poem. So where on earth do we see this shift? Where does the poem start to take a turn or switch kind of tone or feelings? When we talk about these first lines up here, we're talking about this idea of the beauty of summer and everything. However, our poet, William Shakespeare, then tells us that nothing beautiful can stay. Okay, so we have lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And right about here, right after line 8, we see this shift. Okay, so he's talking all about this idea of summer and the beauty of it. But then right around line 8, he switches and he says, but, right? And that's kind of one of our key words. When you hear the word but, a lot of times it's going to give you a new idea. So here we go. So he says, but thy eternal summer shall not fade. So even though summer's going to fade, it's not always going to be beautiful. There's going to be negative moments, and eventually summer will turn to fall and we'll lose that beauty. Your eternal summer or your eternal beauty or your eternal love is never going to fade. And so our shift is right here, guys, right after line 8. And then William Shakespeare takes the rest to talk about how this love is never going to change or how this beauty of this person is never going to disappear as long as this poem is able to live and people are able to read it and see it. So I'm hoping that this helps you guys a little bit. We were able to understand the poem a little bit better. I am open for questions if you guys have any, and I'm going to post some questions for you guys to reflect on about the poem now that I kind of discussed it a little bit with you. So like I said, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, shoot me a message, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. We're going to keep doing some poems. I know the language is a little complicated, and however, I will say that seeing what your comments were about how you guys feel about poetry, I'm kind of excited because most of you said that, poems are good. You enjoy reading them, maybe not all the time, but, you guys see that there's some good and within poetry and that you guys do, in fact, like it sometimes. So I'm excited about that. So hopefully William Shakespeare doesn't change your mind, or my virtual instruction of William Shakespeare doesn't change your mind. So, all right, guys. So good luck answering your questions, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye. Oh, I lost the end thing. Found it. Bye, guys.